Today on the Coach Why podcast, we have a very special guest today. Prior to her coaching journey, she spent time at K-State as a golfer, and so she knows all about high-level golf, playing in the Big 12. She's now currently the head women's golf coach at Oakland University, the Division I program. In her first year at the helm, she led her team to the Horizon League Championships, where they were able to bring home that trophy and, call themselves champions. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Coach Heather Fortushniak to the Coach Why podcast. With the world of coaching evolving and the carousel always changing, we're going to sit down with some coaches and we're going to figure out what they coach, how they coach, and most importantly, why they got into this profession. My name is Kason Wilkinson, and I am your host of the Coaches Why podcast.
That's a great question.
That was my Coaches Why.
Welcome back to another Coach Why podcast. We have a very special guest in the building today. Our very first Division I golf coach joining the show today, all the way from Oakland University, Coach Heather Fortushniak. Coach, thank you so much for joining the show today. I'm excited for this one, so thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk more about what I do on a daily basis.
Absolutely, yeah. And golf is interesting too. I don't play golf, never really played golf. But I know it's a difficult sport. There's a lot of debate of which sport's the hardest, right? There's obviously a lot of that conversation. But yeah, I'm excited to learn about you and your perspective on the game. So thanks again for joining the show. And kind of how we always start the show, if you guys are new to the show, to listening, is always pass along the coach to kind of let her talk a little bit about yourself. So go ahead and let myself and everybody else know kind of where you grew up, when you got involved in sports, but maybe kind of all sports, but also the game of golf, since obviously that is what you are, what you're coaching.
Awesome. Yeah. So I actually grew up down the road from Oakland, Brighton, Michigan. So it's about an hour away. My parents still live there. And so grew up, it's kind of like a small town, or I guess small city, bigger town. And so grew up playing a lot of sports. I was in softball. That was kind of my first thing that I went into, and I played it for a year and I didn't like it. So I went through different avenues. But really my dad was a huge influence on my sports career, in golf and in other sports. So growing up, I played, I started playing basketball at a young age, flag football at a young age with the boys, which was really fun. And then I played hockey in my time, when I got a little bit older. And then so freshman year of high school, I played hockey, golf, and then softball and basketball. And I loved just competing. I grew up being on teams, and I was, multi-sport athlete for years. And it was just something that I could, just go out there and feel like I am doing something bigger than myself. Right. And right. I loved, competing at every level and just having something as a team to work towards. So I was lucky with the coaches that I had too. That is a big influence on what why I'm doing what I'm doing today. But yeah, I kind of was in a ton of sports growing up, and then freshman year is kind of where, like, freshman year of high school is kind of where I just decided to focus on one sport, and that happened to be golf. And so, growing up, I had a dream of playing on the LPGA tour, and that was kind of the sport in the back of my mind that I kind of played leisurely for a long time. And then, and it was kind of just like an extra thing to do with my dad. And, then once I got to freshman year, I had, a great golf coach at Brighton High School and a great assistant golf coach at Brighton High School. So they kind of, broadened my horizons and kind of made me see, like, hey, there are opportunities out there for golf, specifically in college for women. So it kind of was an easy decision once I decided to go all in with golf, because I had the background of wanting to, get to a big stage one day in golf. So yeah, from there, I just, me and my parents really met great people that helped me kind of, get in the right tournaments and see the right coaches to help me elevate my game. And so that was a huge, huge help. Just the people in my community that invested in me and my parents. And obviously my parents invested a lot of time and money too. So shout out to them. But
Right.
yeah, it kind of just went, it was all downhill from there, is like, snowball effect. We kind of
Yeah.
focused on golf, and that just kind of took over our lives the next few years. So I ended up at Kansas State University, which was a great opportunity. If you would have told me that freshman year that I would be going to a Big 12 school for golf, I would have been like, haha, yeah, sure. Like,
Yeah.
but Coach Knight really saw something in me, and Coach Jared did too. And, I'm thankful for them to this day. I still have good friendships with them, and I ask them, questions about coaching all the time. So
Of course. Yeah.
that was a huge blessing. Going into my senior season is when my coach she saw me playing at a event in Indiana. So yeah. And then,
That's awesome. That's crazy. Yeah, going from freshman year, not knowing what you're gonna do, just thinking it was leisure, to Big 12 school. That's an amazing turnaround. I have a few questions based off of that, though. I do, specifically about the leisurely side of things, right? Like obviously golf is a very leisure sport. I feel like, and most people play it leisurely, right? And I have yet to do it, but we have golf tournaments in my hometown for fundraisers, whatever, and people go out and they get tee times, and a lot of times they're drinking and just enjoying their Sunday or whatever, right? But how hard is it to turn that leisure into like becoming good at golf? And I say that because like golf, I feel like is very difficult in a sense of, like, I feel like there's so much technique in it. There's so much, and I mentioned to you before the podcast, I've talked to somebody else and I learned a lot about the game of golf, but like kind of the average nationally versus like an actual good golfer, right? There's a lot of like game management, which I'll dive into with you a little bit more. But like how hard is it to kind of, is it a just a amount of effort you're putting in? Is it a mentality? Is it coaching? I mean, what how can somebody go from leisure to like, all right, I want to actually become good at this?
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the biggest things is, like, with anything, I guess, in life too, but you have to have the heart to get better, right? So like, that's why you see a bunch of amateur golfers working on their swing and getting swing lessons from, their local teaching pro around their golf club or one around them. And so I think you have to have the heart to get better and want to get a little bit better. And then, to go from that, playing golf leisurely and maybe having it as like a third sport that you just do on the weekends or whatever, whenever you're free, to wanting to play it like at a high level. I think a lot of that is just finding the right people, and finding, a coach that would work well with you and your swing technique. Because I mean, the reality is no one has the same golf swing. I mean, there's technique parts that are similar in good golf swings, but not everyone has, the same. So
I think, yeah, I guess that kind of, like you said, it plays into life, but it also plays into any sport you do, right? Like where you are mentally and how much effort you want to put into it. It's the only way to get to whatever level you're trying to get to, right? Obviously, there's a lot of practice that it goes with that, but a lot of it is the heart. So I can appreciate that. And I'm gonna save this question for later, because this one I think is a very touchy or a very hot subject in all sports. Like you said, that it was very expensive for you to play and very expensive for you to go do. And I'm going to touch base on that here in just a little while, because I'm kind of curious how golf fares, at least what I've heard through other sports or whatever, right? So I'm interested to hear that. But you said you played at K-State, so Big 12 school, obviously a very big campus, very big name in college sports. So what was your recruiting process like? So I'm curious to know that part. Did you have a lot of schools coming to talk to you? Was it kind of like this coach came and it was one and done? And then also not only, attached to that recruiting process is, when did you know that you could go to the next level? Golf, I feel like is, and this is just opinion, you can tell me if it's right or wrong, but there's marks, right? Like there's averages, right? You have under pars, you have all these different, you have a game score, right? And I'm sure each golf course is different, but ideally you have that. So were you hitting certain scores that made you realize you can go, or what was it that made you realize you could, and then what was your recruiting process like to double down on that?
Yeah, for sure. So I'll start with the second one and then lead into my recruiting process. So, when I quit my other sports, I kind of had in the back of my mind growing up that I wanted to play a college sport somewhere. And D1 is always growing up, a different level that everyone is like, oh, D1, it's got a stigma around it, right? So growing up, I wanted to play a D1 sport. And I think like when I quit my other three sports, I saw my first year. So, freshman year summer going into like a year later, sophomore year summer is where I made a substantial, drop in my scoring average. And then that next year was really like after my sophomore year going into junior year was really when I started getting looks from college coaches. And so I think like once actually Oakland, funny enough, the coach that used to be at Oakland, recruited me, and she was the first one to recruit me. And I still have a good friendship with her to this day. And so, it's just like, as soon as a coach started recruiting me, it was like, all right, game on. I saw the end in sight and I could see my goal. I could see the things that I was doing was working towards it and actually going somewhere with it. And so back then you could actually email coaches, I think sophomore year of high school, and they could contact you back. I don't think you could have a phone call or anything, but it was, the NCAA rules have changed. I don't know exactly what they, but I sent out like 200 emails, and my parents helped me, with my resume and, looking at all my golf scores and kind of putting it on one page for coaches to look at. And so, that was a huge thing, I think, too, in the recruiting process. You just have to get your name out there as much as possible.
Absolutely.
But yeah, once I started sending those out, I started getting, responses, not a ton, but I had, 5 or 6 schools on my long list. And that was going into the summer before my senior year. And then I, was at a random tournament and Coach Knight was there, and she emailed me after and was like, hey, I'd love to set up a time to chat over the phone. And I was like, yeah, great. I had never heard about K-State really, other than, KU and K-State were, I knew the state schools stuff, but never heard anything past that. So when she emailed me, I was kind of like, whoa, like this is crazy, a new level too. And so, she's like, hey, I'd love to get you on unofficial visit. And so I went down there, and me and my dad actually drove 24 hours and stayed, it was like a 12-hour drive, and we stayed less than 24 hours and came all the way back. So we squeezed it right between 2 tournaments in the summer. So it was a great experience. And for the most part, like my recruiting experience overall was, all the coaches that I met were great. And there was no doubt that I wouldn't play for any of them because, a lot of the coaches that I came in contact with just happened to be really good people and really good coaches. And so it was really hard to decide, like I got a couple offers. I had 3 kind of top schools, K-State, Oakland, and then Central Michigan here in Michigan. And K-State was really the only one that was far away, with probably anything outside of 4 or anything inside of 4 hours I was looking at. And then everything outside of 4 hours, I was like, I don't know if I want to go that far. But yeah, once K-State reached out to me and I went on that visit, it was like, I got home and I was like, how can I say no? And that was ultimately how I made my decision. I made it based on, what schools could I say no to, and K-State was not one of them. And so So yeah, that was kind of the recruiting process in a nutshell. I know a lot of moving parts going on, but yeah.
No, that's how it works though. I mean, I could only imagine, and I tell athletes this too, especially at the high school level was, like the recruiting process should be and can be debatably one of the best times in your life, right? Like knowing somebody wants you and wants you to go better their program, whatever the situation is. And so, like there is a lot of moving parts, right? You might be, like you said, you had two from close to home, one from so far away, right? Like I know kids who've gotten talked to from 3 hours away, and then they have three or four, right? Like East Coast from us. So it's one of those things where it is a lot of moving pieces, but at the end of the day, you chose what was right for you. At least hopefully you feel that way after you've gone through it, right? But you had the right coaches, the right environment, and a good experience as not only an athlete but also a student, because I think that plays a big factor into choosing. I don't know when, I don't know if you ever got to go watch a K-State football game, but I'm sure it was really fun to go watch, right? And maybe even the basketball, right? Like I don't know I don't know when you graduated, when you were in school. When did you go to K-State?
Yeah, so I was there in the fall of 2018 and then graduated spring of 2022. And then I actually did an internship with the development or fundraising department in athletics. So I actually have worked those games too. I
gotcha. I see. Yeah. You saw both sides of it. So yeah, I mean, so at that time, right? So the football started to get way better. The basketball was pretty dang good during that time, right? I'm a Kansas fan in basketball, so I was your rival. Not gonna lie, I'm a Jayhawk, Rock Chalk basketball fan. But anyway, sorry, no, that's another story. Another conversation for another time, I guess. I don't want you to hang up. I don't want you to hang up on me yet. But yeah, it's just one of those things, right? Like the recruiting process is such a fun time, and my recruiting process when I was there, I still think back and I can remember it vividly with every coach I talked to. Every just opportunity I had. It was so much fun, and so I can appreciate it. So I love that you're still able to remember everything and all those coaches, and your time spent was well spent. So that's awesome. Now I know you say, actually, I'm gonna now we kind of have an idea of who you are as a person. So thanks for diving into that and your recruiting. I want to talk a little bit about when did you decide you wanted to coach? So everybody has a coach that maybe influenced them. Maybe it's just something that you like to do, right? You just love the sport so much you want to give back, whatever the case is. But when did you decide that this is what I want to do for my life?
Yeah, so I mentioned I was at K-State for, a 2-year period for an internship right after I graduated. So the last 2 years, 2022 to 24, I was, it was a job that it was a stepping stool, like any other internship. I was able to learn a lot of the things that go around in the background of athletics. And so I got to see, different types of jobs that I might want to go into. And at the end of the day, like a year in, I was like, the only job that I could see myself actually doing other than fundraising, because I did enjoy my time. I mean, my bosses at K-State were amazing, and like I learned a ton, from them as well. But the only job that I could really see myself being passionate about and loving was coaching. And so I reached out to a couple coaches that I knew, and I just asked them questions about coaching, and I really just kind of asked them all, what's the best part? What's the worst part? What are the parts that you don't know what to do? I asked them just straight up, just a bunch of different questions. And so once I had a couple conversations, I really knew that this was going to be my next, thing that I go into. And so once that happened, it was, just finding out when the right time was to start applying and communicating that with my bosses at K-State, saying, yeah, I think I want to go into coaching. I'm going to start applying around this time. So that kind of was the process. And I just kind of fell in love with it even more once I started to, look for jobs and go on the NCAA Marketplace website and just, I checked every day for the longest time. And so, when I started to see jobs, I started to see my future. I could see myself going to this school or going to this school. And I was really willing to end up anywhere in the country and be an assistant coach. That was kind of my mindset. I was like, well, I'll probably be an assistant. And once I saw the Oakland job, I jumped on it. And, I put in an application thinking, well, it's a long shot, but yeah, through networking and I have a really good support, good support from past coaches and past friends that, it just led me to where I am today. Yeah. And I love Oakland and I love what I'm doing and I love where I'm at. So.
Sheesh, you feel the passion in it. I like it. It got me. I like it. Yeah, you have to have a passion as a coach, right? We don't really do it for money. I'm not going to ask about your financials, but realistically speaking, right, like we're not making millions of dollars. So it's one of those things where you have to love what you do. And it's one of those things where, if I was a recruit, and I hear a coach with so much passion, it intrigues me whenever a coach has so much passion about something too. And I'm sure that whenever you're doing your interview with Oakland and whoever your committee was, I'm sure that they could feel it too. And I think that's what's important at the end of the day, someone who's just passionate. And so I love that. I could feel it, and I'm just talking to you, so I like it. So, but you said that, and something that you said that I thought was intriguing is that you went to school from 18 to 22, right? Was kind of your time frame in school. So were you nervous knowing like, hey, I don't have a whole lot of coaching experience. I'm pretty much fresh out of college, right? Within the last 1, 2, however many years it was ago, right? I guess in this case it'd be 3 years ago, but in general, like we don't have a lot of coaching experience on paper. And for you to jump into a D1 division, high level golf, right? And obviously all the things that come with it. I mean, were you nervous to do that knowing like I competed here, but I've never coached here?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that was like when I got the job offer, I was actually traveling later that day and, got a text, hey, can I call you? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And, I was like almost dumbfounded. I was like, wait, did you call the right person? Like,
wrong number. Yeah.
And it was super humbling. Like in the moment, I was like, holy cow. Because, I have this excitement of like, holy cow, my goal, it came to fruition. And, I got a job offer. But then on the other side, it was very nerve wracking. And it was like, I had the questions as every young coach would go through, I think. I don't know. But,
yeah.
I don't know how to do this. What am I going to how am I going to do it? How do I build a culture? I've been on good teams with good culture, but how do I build it as a coach? That was like one of my biggest things that, going into coaching, I wanted to impact people and I wanted to have a great culture on a team. And so, there were those fears of like, holy cow, can I even do this?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, I think the biggest thing in my career as a whole, like golf and school and now professionally and work. And it really is just, if your confidence outweighs your doubt, like you can do anything.
Absolutely. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Because doubts are going to come and like we're human. We're not going to know everything. And I'm the first to admit that, I still don't know everything and I don't think I will for my time on the,
Yeah, of course.
So if your confidence in yourself can outweigh your doubts in yourself, then there's nothing that you can't do, so.
I think that, damn, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Confidence outweighs doubt will get you really far. And I think that's true. And like you said that you, during the interview process, you're like, I don't really know how to answer some of these questions. And that was me too, right? During my interview process, I did a few, and to be honest with you, I actually kind of did a few knowing I wasn't going to get that job, but I wanted to kind of feel what a college interview was like. So I kind of might've been prepared a little bit more for the next one. And to be honest, I had 3 pages out. I had like the division. And so I had like all the things about this division's like information I should probably know if they ask. I had like, I went and did like the school's motto and like what their goal is athletically. So I went and like wrote down how I would answer this, blah blah blah. Like I had like 3 pages written in front of me for each one. I probably had like 4 questions off of those. It's kind of like when you study for a test in high school and it's like we do this rubric and it's like 4 questions out of 20 are on it. That's exactly what it was. But I learned and I've got more confident in each one, right? And so obviously when that opportunity came, like for the one I actually really wanted it to happen, but like same way, like even then, like I've been coaching for a while, but I've never done it in college. So like how the heck, like what do I say? And so I was just confident. Like I was, like you said, I was confident with what I could do, coach wise, recruit wise, and athletically. All the other stuff I can figure out. And I have, I'm sure you have some really good resources, as you said, with Coach Knight and other coaches that you can reach out to, which I think helps no matter what you do, if you're an athlete or student, or an athlete or I guess student too, but athlete or a coach, having those people that you can, hey coach, I need, what do you do here? Or this is what I did. How do you think this should go? Or whatever the case is, right? Like that really helps build your confidence and understanding at least one way. And then you learn more and more, right? And you make it your own way. So in year 4, year 5, year 10, however many years you plan on doing this, you can really navigate it to make it yours. So I love that. I do. You keep saying stuff that I ask on this podcast. And so you're either you've listened to it or this is just a natural thing. Don't know, but we're going to go ahead. So I actually haven't asked this question in a long time, but I'm going to do it because you said it. And so I have to ask it to you. So I haven't asked this question. It was, you said like you were reaching out to coaches saying, what do you love? What do you don't like about coaching? Like those type of things, right? So I'm going to ask you, what do you love about coaching in your short time? And what do you dislike about it?
Oh, I love it. Like, I mean, instantly, like, I love everything about coaching. I love the challenges. I love the highs, of, if a girl goes out there and shoots her personal best, it's like, holy cow, like that. I didn't do anything, like you did this, but I feel so much pride, like for you. But yeah, I mean, even the lows, I mean, my first year in coaching, I've been learning so much. And like, so back in January, we went to just across the state and did like a team bonding weekend. And we all kind of picked a word after, we watched a couple motivational videos and stuff. And so we picked a word for the semester. Mine was learn. And, we got that like on a sleeve of a workout t-shirt, and I've got it up in the locker rooms. And like every time I see learn, I'm like, gosh, like I love to learn. That was something that in school I would have never said, right? Because I was just, I was okay at school. I tried hard at school. I was just not the smartest in the room. And so, but like learning in life is like, it gets addicting because, once you learn something new, you can then tackle something greater than you thought you could. And so, I don't know if I can say that I dislike any part. I mean, the hardest part, I guess I will say this, it's hard to balance like life and work. When your passion is your work, it's hard to balance that because you just, I want the best for these girls that are on my team. And so, I know I'm, kind of behind the ball, some might say,
kind of, yeah. Maybe not.
Yeah.
I think that's subjective for sure. Or yeah. But anyways, continue. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. But yeah, so, it's like, I want to do my absolute best. And so, I would say just trying to find the life balance with it has been challenging, but it also has been rewarding. Those weekends that we do have off, like, and I decide to hang out with my parents or, hang out with someone in this area, like, it's rewarding to have that day off, so. Yeah.
I like that you have, it's all love so far. Work-life balance as a coach is tough, and having a supportive family, whether it's mom, dad, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever, whoever's in your life. And if you don't have that, right, like if you don't have a spouse or partner, it makes maybe not easier because you still have all the same things you have to overcome. Obviously there's some areas of that's difficult, but having a supportive spouse, if you have that, right, is very important, because I know, even when I first started, or anything like, or any person I've ever talked to, right, that is married or whatever, they've always said like their spouse is very supportive of coaching, and coaching's because it takes so much time, especially at the college level. And I don't know your routine, how much practice you do, preseason, off season, all that, all those variables, that every sport's different, but it takes a lot. So, the work-life balance in coaching is hard. So I can appreciate that you understand that. I mean, even at the high school level, right? That was hard during that time, just for me, like my life and everything like that. So I agree, it is difficult. But if you love it, you're not ever working, right? And that's the if you're smiling every day, even through the hard days, that's all that matters. So I like that. So, what challenges have you faced at coming into coaching? So I think I kind of want to, on the level of like maybe just learning the game of coaching, or learning coaching, and what has been something that you've had to face that you feel like are still challenged with, or maybe something that you've learned that was challenging at the beginning and now you're starting to understand how to get over that hurdle.
Yeah, I think there's like a couple things that come to mind. One is just having the confidence in myself to have the hard conversations and to, stick my ground. I think that like was a very big learning curve for me in the first semester. And I've kind of come into my own, and like, God bless the girls for just like bearing with me on that. But yeah, I think that was one of the hardest things. And then I also think, I think creating a plan for a team to get better is so underrated, and it's not talked about enough. Like you have, certain things that need to go right on a team for you guys to succeed, right? And culture is one of those. And then also the other piece of that is development, like player development. And so I think coming in, I was confident in my ability, and I still am. I still know the things that I know about golf, and I know I can teach them something. But yeah, kind of putting that all together for the perfect formula for this team to get better, has been a challenge for sure. But
Absolutely.
But yeah, I've learned and grew through the growing pains of it. So it's been great.
Yeah, finding the formula is important. Build the chemistry, build that, like you said, culture, right? And I'll ask that culture question. You said it a few times. I'm definitely going to ask you here in a little bit how the heck you build it. But yeah, I think it's important to learn and start and understanding your team, right? Like knowing who's on your team, who you're recruiting, who they are individually, and as they develop, because we all like who you are at 18, 17 is going to be different than 21, 22. So how the heck do we keep not only you engaged, but how do we evolve with each one of our athletes while still bringing in those young people to evolve with it, I guess is the best way, right? So, yeah, that's a great challenge, and I hope that continues to grow, and hopefully you start blueprinting it and start figuring it out. When you do, let me know for sure. So you've said Coach Knight and a few of these other coaches were influential to you, right? And I know, like the beginning, you said shout out to your parents for kind of all that they did when you were an athlete and just growing up. So go ahead and tell me. You can let me know one or two, whoever you want, but kind of tell me maybe who was an influential coach and why. And then also kind of contrary to that, or not contrary, but additional to that, is what is something that you feel like you've taken from either being an athlete or learning from a coach, right? Being like a mentor, whatever the case is, that you feel like you've been able to implement into your program. And maybe on like, I want two of this. I want maybe something on the mental side, coaching, like mental side, social side, chemistry side, whatever it is, like something that you are doing to implement to help your kids through the grind of the seasons and mentally, but also maybe something that you've done to implement to help maybe become a better team. So drills, something in practice, something that has to do with the game of golf itself.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously I have a list of 10 coaches or 10 people in my life, at least that have helped me. But I'm going to stick with Coach Knight for the time being, because she really taught me. I mean, she was one of the most fair and had the highest integrity of anyone that I knew. And so learning that from her, is more of a life lesson. Like, yes, she taught us on the course, but she also cared about us as people. And so I would say learning that from her, like those life lessons of being fair and having good integrity. And then, to be honest, like being fair was something that I wanted to do as a coach. Because you hear so much in college athletics of the politics of, the coach picked this player and, it could be a various different reasons why. But I wanted all my players to end here, in a couple years and say, Coach Heather was really fair, with her decision. She was fair. And so that was probably one of the biggest things that I brought in from her coaching style. And then I would say one thing that's helped us as a team is doing the team competitions. Like we have a couple drills that we'll do, once a month or so that we started last fall. And it's fun when you get the whole team involved because golf is an individual sport, but it's Absolutely. A team sport at the college level. And, you see, even in the professional level, you see the Ryder Cup.
Yeah.
Yeah. So golf is very much individual on the course, but it's also very team, based at this level.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to have that culture piece and you have to have that working together piece. So I would say we have done this one drill called back, and it's pretty much everyone's in charge of their own, putt or chip, depending on what version you're doing. But, everyone, say we have 7 girls on the team. So say we have 7 different putts set up, you have to 2-putt all of them. And they're all, pretty long putts that, are hard 2-putts, undulated greens and stuff. So that is probably one of the biggest drills that has influenced the girls because they, whenever I say we're doing back today, they're like, all right, like they get in that mindset of like, beat this dang drill because we haven't, I think we've beaten it twice, but it's still, one of those that they love to do. So
I like, so I actually wrote down a lot of stuff, but you said about being team, right? So like, this is kind of that's on topic, not coaching wise, but it's interesting. It's like the TGL. I just watched TGL, like, and it was so crazy, right? Like the idea that they have this rotating green, right, for the putts and chips and whatever the case is based off of what the actual course they're on, right? Like they've put 2 and 2 together to where now you still have some of the, best dudes, Xander Schaffer, was it Schaffel?
I think Schaffel.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whatever. He was on it, right? You had a few different people, and obviously you have 4 different teams, and it's, you have some of the best in the actual PGA and Live. I guess I don't know who's on Live anymore, who's on PGA anymore. I don't, but whatever the case is, right? Like they brought that over, and it's so intriguing. I actually liked watching it. I was like, this is actually really cool, right? But it's cool because all these things are developed between what traditional golf has always been, right? And it's cool that they're bringing it to light and hopefully bringing more and more to the table for viewership, right, and entertaining. So, like you said that you do these things to create competition and fun and things like that within the game. So when it comes to like the development of an athlete, because I kind of want to dive into that a little bit, whether it's a team thing where you're developing a team or developing individuals as they develop within their college career, how do you get somebody who maybe is shooting an 82, right, and that's like 7 on your team to like now as they go into their sophomore year or whatever the year they are, right? They started last year they shot at 82, now they're shooting a 76 or a 74, right? I don't know what's a good jump in a year or two is in golf, but let's just say they had a 6 or 7 stroke, upgrade and swing. So how do you develop an athlete to not only be able to do that individually, but also who's able to go from 7 to now they're like 3 or 4 in that roster, from year 1 to year 2?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing is two questions, I guess, is what I would ask as a coach is is there heart in it? And if that's yes, okay, then where can we improve, as a golfer? So, there's the technique side and then there's the feel side of the short game. But a lot of times the short game is where you have to improve in college. At the highest levels, the people that are improving their short game are the ones that are winning tournaments and going on to, shoot better scores. And so yeah, if their heart's still in it, then looking at their technique, like short game wise, but it's weird because in golf and really in any sport, you can get into those slumps of you could be developing as a player, but you're just not playing to that ability yet. In golf, a lot of times you either say you left strokes out there or you got all that you could out of that round, right? So if you're hitting the ball horrible and still shooting, mid 70s, and you're able to get off the course without having a ton of blow up holes, then that means that you probably got most of what you could out of that round. And that just was what you were given that day with, that's what you had to play with. If you're losing strokes in your round, then a lot of times it's either course management or short game at this level. So we do use Decade Golf, which is a very strong course management stat program. And so I think that's really helped the girls put it into perspective. And I've seen, I don't know if we've necessarily reaped total benefits yet because we're still kind of learning it. And it's hard being in the fall and spring to, put it all together. But definitely is a new philosophy that the girls are learning, and it's going to help them grow as players. But yeah, and then we work on short game a lot. So
so just having to know how to develop it, and I feel like going a winter and or spring and a fall can be difficult to put it all together. My question for you is and I apologize, I'm going back to what I said about the live golf or the TGL and stuff. How do you feel like that is? Like, do you watch that? And if you do, do you watch golf? And where do you feel like golf stands in I guess viewership or I don't know, maybe golf in general? How do you feel golf is at? Where do you feel like golf is at right now? And do you feel like it's at a good place? Feel like it's going to continue to grow? I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll be honest. When Live first came out, I was not a fan, just because golf has always been the integrity game of hey, you can't just get paid. You get paid for your endorsements, of course, but you can't just get paid for not performing, right? You had to go out and perform if you wanted to get paid. And golf is also a sport where, the pros still have to pay entry fees to play in those, events. And so now the invitationals, a lot of majors, you get invited to, but yeah, it's a unique sport. And so when Live came out, I was like, what the heck? This is kind of gonna, screw everything up.
The game, yeah.
Yeah, but now that, it's we're kind of on the other side of it. I don't know if the merger is happening with PGA or Live. I haven't kept up on that since they said it 2 years ago because but yeah, I think it's good for the game to, for more people to start watching and get viewership up. I think with Nelly Korda and Scotty Scheffler last year, I think that brought viewers because, both of them had outstanding years, and you don't get that much in golf. You're lucky if you win 2 tournaments a year on tour, and they won. Nelly, went on a streak of 4 or 5, and Scott had, quite a bit stringed along too. So with a major in there, so it was just a cool thing to watch, and I think people kind of kind of, they were asking me anyways about like, oh, that Nelly girl, or Scotty, he did really well. So I think all in all, those things are only good for the game. It kind of brings me back to like a lot of people get introduced to the game because of scrambles, like you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like, it's just a variation of the game of golf, right? And the game of golf, no matter what variation you play, will teach you life lessons. It's one of those sports that, teaches you patience and humility, because you're not always going to hit the best shot, and you have to wait for your playing partners to hit their shot, So, and so there's just a lot of cool things that golf can bring to people's lives. So I think it's great overall.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's cool. It's just like, like Savannah Bananas in baseball, right? Kind of bring a fun aspect to baseball, or, I guess WNBA might have been difficult to really compare, but like Caitlin Clark, I guess she's an individual, but she brought, what she brought to in WNBA in that, and obviously all these different things you can look into when it comes to different sports, and it's really cool whenever a sport like golf, which probably doesn't get the love it gets, which, by the way, as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate. I was like, why the hell do we have golf on like 5 years ago or like 7 years ago? And now it's like, I'll watch a round of golf or whatever, right? Like, or like even tennis, like when there's like, whether it's Wimbledon or, US Open or whatever the case is, and it's on TV, French Open, I'll somehow just watch it. And I don't know why, but like, I don't play them, but I think it's just appreciation of the sport. So it's good that, some of these industries that are not the big four are kind of bringing this to light. And so I just had to ask you your opinion, because I kind of skipped over that when I just said that, but I had to get your opinion on it because obviously you're involved in it. So so now that we have an idea of like how you develop, and that's kind of like how you approach it, and that's what it takes to develop an athlete. You've already talked a little bit earlier. I had a question earlier, for whatever reason I cannot remember what I asked you, but I know it was at the beginning, talking about I guess really like how you become good at golf was kind of how, the point of it. So now that we have those two, which is, I think, important to us, I want to talk to you about recruiting, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite things. So, you know what? I lied. I don't want to talk recruiting. I have one more question. It's that pay to play thing you said earlier. You know how, like you said, your parents spent a lot of money and how it's expensive and stuff like that, right? So like in the game of golf, is there a pay to play system that you see that makes golf difficult for people to get into or to become good at? Or is it more of just a mental and getting out there and doing it? I feel like, granted, it's just me, but when I try to go look at a set of clubs, I'm like, whew. Or if I look at like tee times, like some courses are a little bit different than others. But like if I was trying to go to like Pebble Beach, or if I was trying to go to, Augusta or whatever, some of these big courses, I feel like those courses are crazy priced, which I could be wrong. Don't know. But the idea is like, where does it sit in the level of whether it's a pay to play type of situation? Because you can't just go and, you could get one of those nets, right? And you could drive a ball into a net all day. You might be able to get a little bit of turf that might cost some money to go play, just get better at your short, middle, long game, whatever, when it comes to that. You can kind of build your own little setup for drills, but like truly getting out there and playing on a course with the natural winds and Mother Nature, whatever, that I feel like can be expensive. So where does it sit in today's world in the United States for the game of golf and the whole pay-to-play conversation that every other sport has to deal with?
Yeah. I think for juniors, they have a lot of good programs at local golf clubs, and the First Tee is a huge program across the U.S. that, has kind of made it possible for little kids to get into golf, even if, all of them do have clubs and balls. So if a kid doesn't have their own set, like they've got them covered. All they have to show up is with, a water bottle and a little snack, and they're good to go for the next 3 hours or whatever it is. So yeah, I think things like that for, junior golfers or, little kids are great. But yeah, I do think there is a little pay to play aspect, especially when you get to, high school age and just before, it's your parents or your legal guardian, has to buy into it with you. Golf is unfortunately not the least expensive sport, but it definitely, there's opportunities out there for you to still make it on the course, even if your financial situation won't prepare you for that or can't get you to where you need to be. So I think the golf community also is a small community. If you're really trying to go to college for golf at D1, D2, D3 level, like there are opportunities out there. And a couple years ago when I first was looking at colleges, like back in the mid-teens of 2000s, I was.
You say that was a long time ago, okay? Like, come on now. I graduated. Hey, look, I graduated high school in 2013, right? Yeah. So like, I don't appreciate you talking like this is old here. Okay, I'm just saying.
But yeah, when I was there was a lot of opportunity for golf, and there, especially at the college level. So I think there's opportunity, but yeah, it does play a role. I mean, if my parents didn't put as much time and money into golf, I probably wouldn't have been seen by K-State, and in some instances it does pay off if you get a good scholarship, and that's kind of same for a lot of sports, but yeah, I think it is there's opportunities out there, but I will end with like, you do have to have some form of commitment financially, and that's the tough part, about golf. So yeah.
That's understandable. I think that I just think that it's such a big topic in today's world, and it's cool that they have some youth opportunities for kids to get involved in it from a young age, and just to go experience it, right? Like it's a great way to get people in. I guess youth sports is all about involvement, right? And it's all about numbers. So it's one of those things where the fact that you have that opportunity and kids have that opportunity is great. So let me kind of start diving more into, as I mentioned earlier, I did kind of talk about the recruiting side of things. And so I do want to talk about that briefly. So my question is, being a D1, you have NIL, you have this, you have that, you have transfer portal. There's so many moving pieces in NCAA. I know D1 kind of gets the viewership and obviously like all the words about it because it's the highest level, right, in America. But the idea is that you have all these moving pieces within recruiting of all levels. But where do you start? So like, where do you find athletes? Where are you looking for them? And then what are you looking for in an athlete?
Yeah. So, we've got Junior Golf Scoreboard, we've got Wagger ratings, or rankings. And so there's kind of some websites you can go to look at, hey, who is shooting the best in this state or in this country, and kind of just go from there. And I will say, like, as a coach, I didn't know how many people would reach out to me. Like, I get, emails every week, multiple emails every week. And so I think it's a little bit of utilizing the resources online, and then also people are coming to you constantly as a college coach. And so I think that is kind of what I use, those couple, and then a couple others. And obviously with the transfer portal, like that's, that plays a factor too, into my recruiting process and figuring out, what we need for the team forward. And so yeah, those are a few of the resources anyways that I look on. And then as far as like what I'm looking for, I always set up a phone call as the first one, and then usually like to do another phone call for sure. If I can, I'd rather do a Zoom for that second one. So pretty much just starting with a phone call, and then second time a Zoom. And then from there, I ask the questions that are not necessarily hard questions, but they can make you think a little bit. And so, for example, like, I'm not going to talk about golf that much in my first call. I want to get to know you as a person and where you grew up and how you got into golf, all that. Right. Mm-hmm. And then the second phone call, we can talk more about golf. And obviously I want to, explain what the culture is here and explain what the university, motto or kind of, what type of degrees they can get, because that's a big thing. And like, so yeah, kind of like that first phone call kind of sets everything else up, I would say for me. But as far as like when I'm out recruiting, I'm looking for demeanor on the golf course, and looking for, how you bounce back after a failure or a bad hole or, whatever mm-hmm. adversity of at any point out there. So that's kind of one of the biggest things. And then I'm also looking at, who has a technically sound swing and who has, a good foundation to start with. Because as a high school golfer, if my college coach, when she first saw me, there's no way she thought, wow, this girl's technique is amazing, but she definitely thought, wow, she's worked hard. I can tell she worked hard on her technique. So yeah, those are kind of two of the main things that I kind of look for in that process. And we go from there. And obviously I want to impact the girls on my team personally and golf wise. So I care about them as people and care about how I'm impacting them as a coach. So want to find the right fit that, will fit in with the team culture and the girls and with my coaching style. So yeah.
Yep.
So how do you get girls to commit in the first year, first 2 years, first 3 years, right? Like you're new to this.
Yeah.
This is a question that I just thought of, being that you are new to the coaching world, right? Like within the last 3 years, you graduated, right? And you've probably only been a head coach. I think this is your second year, or is this your first year?
This is my first year. I started in July.
So first full year. So how are you getting people to commit to you being a first year?
Yeah, I think kind of goes back to my passion, what we were talking about earlier. Like you can kind of see if someone's passionate about what they're doing or, about their belief in you. And so, I've really relied on myself individually, how I am, like my personality and who I was raised to be. And, the things that I've learned, is a product of who I am today. Right. So I've really relied on that. Now that might change in years to come. I have no idea, but for me as a first year coach, I'm sure some other coaches might be feeling the same way if they're a first year head coach. But yeah, I've really relied on my just staying true to myself and who I am. And so I would say that's probably the biggest thing that's helped me get people, to commit to my my goals and my philosophy. But yeah, I think it part of it is also you want their impression of the university and of the team to be positive no matter what. And so I think that's something that I've tried to incorporate into my visits or into my phone calls of like, hey, there are opportunities here to grow, and kind of laying those out for them. And it took a lot of research at first, because when I had my first recruiting phone call, I remember being as nervous as they were, Yeah. But it's taken time to kind of get that script down, I guess. Or it's not really a script. It's just sharing the information that is presented by the university or by but yeah, getting that script down in a way that is also easy for them to understand. Because going into college, I didn't know anything. I didn't know really what a major was. I knew what a degree was, but I didn't know that there were different colleges on the actual college, the College of Business, the College of Health and Human Sciences,
Yeah.
whatever it may be. So kind of getting it into a way where they can understand and where they can build off that, to make their best decision for them. But yeah, I'd say those couple things have helped me a lot. And yeah, I've been lucky with the girls that I have found, and I'm excited for this upcoming year and excited to finish out this year strong. So
I love that you use your passion as kind of your driving force right now, right? Obviously, when time goes on, you have more experience, maybe more success, right? I'm not saying you don't have success now, but like when you start building that 2, 3, 4 years of just like you've established yourself with, and I say success doesn't mean you're winning on the course, but that means like success is getting people in, success is getting people degrees, right? All that stuff. As you develop there, you start learning that, right? That is really when it kind of helps with that. So I love that you have, that's your focus right now. And like I said, I could feel it earlier for sure. So my last question about recruiting for you is, what's the biggest challenge that you've had to face so far when it comes to recruiting? And how do you feel like you're going to overcome that in the years to come?
yeah, I think it's just knowing how to recruit as a whole. I think coming in, that was one of the most daunting tasks that, as a coach, you're like, well, yeah, I have to recruit. And you look at all these other things in the, interview process, and you're not necessarily looking at, okay, what type of girls am I going to recruit? You kind of know a little bit, but you don't, once you're in it, like you figure that out. It's a learning thing, you have to learn by doing it. And so yeah, I think just honestly figuring out who to contact, what tournaments to go to. I think the physical part of recruiting is hard. Like, it's easy to sit on my computer and go and look up all those sites. Like, that takes, an hour at most. And if I do that once a week, I'm doing pretty good. But, I think it was just the physical part of it, learning how to have conversations with recruits, learning how to, who to recruit and how to point someone out, from a Zoom screen or from a phone call. So yeah, I think that's been the hardest thing for me, just learning that piece of it,
Yeah.
You said you didn't really have a script, but did you have a notepad of questions you wanted to ask at the beginning of your time and kind of go line by line? And then now you might be at a point where you don't have to use it anymore, but be honest, do you still use it as like a
yeah, for sure.
Like a reference?
I will go off on a tangent a little bit. Men's head coach here has been, a big factor of how I've seen success in my first year of coaching. He has helped me with everything. And so when I first started recruiting, he kind of gave me, hey, this is what I do, and these are the resources that I've used in the past, and these are how you get them or where you go to get these, for recruits or whatever it was. And so, yeah, I did have a notepad, and I did, I still use that today, that kind of, those type of questions. And I use his philosophy, honestly. He had a really good one. Like, it's his idea of asking, about them as people first. And I was like, I love that. I love that. So yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah. I don't know if I don't remember what questions were asked to me or what my first initial conversations were, but as I sit here and I start doing the recruiting process, I kind of think about what works the best, right? And I think, it's funny, I had to ask you that because I use a notepad with like notes of reference, right? I guess questions of reference. But it's one of those things where I kind of think about it, and like as I go through it, I like the idea of kind of starting with them and kind of having some of the deeper questions on the second one, but in my mentality, I kind of think about it as like, maybe number one, I'm kind of more discussing, I do talk wrestling. I do talk about the beginning part, like who they are, kind of, where they're from, things like that. It's usually a 30, 45-minute conversation on the phone, which is kind of long, I think. But I do kind of talk a little bit about, the program, talk about all those things, mention the school, about them, ask them some questions about, the sport itself, and then on episode number 2, recruit number 3. The recruit that comes here to the on the second conversation, right, is either a phone call or Zoom if possible. And on that one, it's more that one's the family's involved. So that time that with the family involved, that's when I kind of dive into asking family some questions. I kind of maybe have some questions I didn't ask the first time. I'll kind of double back on and ask the recruit, right? Kind of have a family-oriented conversation, and then ask them questions. Have them ask all their questions that they have. That one could be 15 minutes. That one could be an hour. That one really depends. But I like the idea that maybe I'll cut some of my first one out and make it more focused on the second one, because that's when family's involved. So that's really when the big probably need to have those conversations. But I just find it intriguing that you guys start with that first and not really talk the sport before to then lead into those harder questions or deeper questions, whatever, call 2. So I might still a little bit of that. We're still seeing, I'm new too, so I'm still learning what works, what doesn't work. So if it works, I'll give you the shout out for sure, you and the head men's golf coach, and I'll let you know how that one goes.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah,
I will. Yeah. I wanted to, now that we've kind of talked about recruiting, I want to dive into the deeper stuff, the final, kind of the back half of this episode here. Some of my favorite questions here, right? People hopefully stick around. Most people, if that stick around, they stick around for these questions. So how do you build a successful culture? We've talked about this already. How do you build a successful culture on the level of buy-in and mindset?
Yeah. I think one of the things that's helped, I think it's helped anyways, I don't know, is having of the day.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll find out. I don't know yet.
I know here, but having a question of the day on the board in our locker room has been fun for the girls to, sometimes it's deep and sometimes it's like, hey, what have we learned this week? Or sometimes it's like, hey, what's your favorite dessert?
Does pineapple go on pizza? Yeah,
things like that. Exactly.
Which is a no, by the way. Everybody listen, pineapple does not belong on pizza.
Yeah, I don't really like it either on pizza, so I'm with you on that one.
All right, 2 for 2. We won. Yeah. We won today.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that's like bringing them into those sort of things, because as a coach, it's almost impossible not to get to know them as people. And I wouldn't want to be a coach if I couldn't know my players as people. And so yeah, that's one little aspect. I think the team bonding weekend in the spring was much needed, and I think it propelled us into a really good spring, just start to the spring season. And a lot of the girls were just, thankful for that, like after we went. And so that was really cool. And then I think a lot of one-to-one, especially in golf, one-to-one conversations, like individual meetings, I think that also builds culture, because as long as they're sitting in front of you and have confidence as you in their coach, then when you're with all of them together, you have kind of the whole bought-in culture that you're trying to build. And as far as like building culture, I honestly, I don't have the answers yet. I've tried a lot of new things this year, and some have worked, some have not. But I think it also depends on the team that you have from the start. So yeah, I think one of the things that I've stayed true to try and build culture is, in my life, I've always been a question asker. And so I incorporated that into our meals. There's no phones at the dinner table or lunch table, whatever it is. And we have this list of 200 and something questions, and they pick a number, and we go around the table. Okay. And we don't, we just pick, a few numbers.
I was like, 200 questions that's crazy, but I got you. Okay, you pick a number. I got you.
Yeah. So and it's kind of fun for them because it's like a mystery, like what question will I get, and it's fun for me to get to know them. Like that's where my personality is like very extroverted, and so that's where I like get charged up, those little conversations.
Yeah, you thrive. Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, I think I don't know. I honestly, those are the things that I've done, and I think I think the girls have appreciated them, and I think they've added to our team culture. But yeah, as I go through my first year, there's definitely things that I've learned that I'm like, yeah, I probably won't incorporate that next year, or probably won't do that next year.
Absolutely.
It's just, so yeah.
We have to evolve as a coach, and you have to understand what you like and what you don't like, right? In each of your, from semester 1 to semester 2 down the line, right? Not only what you might have recruited this girl because of this reasons, whatever it is, and all right, she's great, but I didn't really necessarily like that. So next year, right, like she's still a great person, but she's 90% here. So let's try to find the other 90, whatever the case is, right? Like you always have to evolve, and I don't know how to word that. I'm not trying to say we're getting rid of a girl because of this, but the idea is like you can, as you see how you're building, as you see whether it's a personality trait from a person or athletic thing, or like you said, like just as we develop with our training styles, we have to change and we have to develop to get them the best that we can, not only athletics on the campus, but for the program and for them too, right? So I think that's huge. So another deep question for you. This is one of my favorite questions: is how do you build a successful program on the level of wins, and then how do you sustain that over time?
Yeah. So golf is very unique. You don't play one other team; you play 10 to 15. And so, a win for us could be top 5 in a strong field, or a win for us could be, winning the whole event, So yeah, I think with this season, it's been like hard to capitalize off those because we played in some hard fields, and we've just played some hard golf courses. And so, but yeah, I think like it is important to celebrate the small victories in golf. And, that could be, for instance, a girl on my team might shoot really well, but there might be a girl that shoots horrible. And the small victory that we need to celebrate is say, hey, so-and-so, great round today. Way to stick it out and way to grind out there and put up a good score, and it's hard. I mean, after you have a horrible day and someone else has a great day, you kind of just want to lull and you're, and try to figure out like what went wrong, but as a team, we have to celebrate the small wins, and we have to do that for not just yourself, but other people, So yeah, I think that's one way that we build on top of wins, just celebrating the small things. And it's been something that I've kind of put more in their heads this semester. But I remember my college coach telling us that almost every semester, just, we have to celebrate small victories and
small
golf.
wins. Yep.
That is the biggest thing. And then after each round, we usually do good. What did we do good, and what can we do better? So, So yeah.
What about so I have 2 questions really quick, rapid fire, before we finish off I have two questions that are deeper. One's fun, just for conversation, that I always end on a fun piece. And then I have one that's my favorite question, but, politics. How is there politics in golf, and how do you avoid that?
Yeah. There are, I mean, if you're a coach that doesn't pay attention to politics, or others might call it like drama, right? Yeah, if you're a coach that kind of sweeps it under the rug, I think it will sneak up on you. But yeah, politics in golf, some coaches have coaches picks for different tournaments, and some will have you've got to qualify for the spot, or for 2 or 3 spots, so I think just making it, going back to what Coach Knight taught me, just making it as fair as possible. I want to give all the girls equal opportunity. that's my goal. Like, I want them all to succeed in life and golf. And so, I think there are politics, but as a coach, you just have to kind of, you have to give everyone the equal opportunity to showcase their ability and to make the starting lineup or, So, and I think like golf is unique too, because not everyone travels. You look at a football team and most of them will travel, or you look at other sports like basketball, even though you're on the bench, you're still traveling with the team. And in golf, that's not really a thing. So that's another piece of it. It can get, political or drama, can start on teams. So as a coach, you just have to nip it in the butt and give everyone fair opportunity.
Address it right away and don't let it build up. I like that. That's why I love wrestling, is because we don't really have the ability for politics. I guess realistically speaking, right? Like, I guess you could. I guess there are some ways that politics play a factor, but it's not really so much who starts. It's more of like maybe when you go against somebody else, right? Like, you can do things to keep your head to heads. Like, there's things that I've learned that you can do as a coach to play the game, I guess, when he goes against other teams. But in the room and who's your starter, don't really have that. You have to wrestle that person, and the deeper in the season you go, if that person's beat you all year, now you have to beat them 2 out of 3 or whatever, or it's back and forth, right? Like, there's definitely some things that avoid politics in wrestling, which is what I love about it, is because you can't really play it per se. I guess you could, but it's you're probably a bad coach if you do that. True coaches, you wrestle head to head, right? The mat don't lie, you win, you get the starting spot. So that's what I like about it. So where do you stand? Where do you choose to stand on the course? You got 5 golfers all, teeing off. Let's just say I don't know. I guess I don't know golf like that well, but I know like they're teeing off at certain times of the day. Let's say it's like 8:05, 10:02, 11:04, whatever, across the board. Where do you choose to stand, and where do you choose to go?
Yeah, so a lot of it. So we have a practice round the day before every tournament, and so that's kind of, we do a lot of our course management stuff and just go over the holes as we play them. And then from there, the girls will ask, hey, can you stand on this second shot of this par 5? Or, hey, can you be on this par 3? And with the times that I've been able to bring our GA or a administrator with me along on trips, it's been easier for me to walk with them. And so how I kind of see it is like, if it's just me, I want to be on those holes that they ask me to be on, but if I have someone along with me, then one of us will tackle the holes that they ask us to be on, and one of us will actually walk with them and just start at the front of the line, because a lot of times your starting 5 are together right in a line. And so we'll just walk with them and just go a couple holes with the first one, then switch to, the next one in line and work your way. And then you've got that other coach going out, another big thing is like they're out there for hours. And so you have to make sure they have water and snacks. You never want a girl to, not have enough of those, because, it's not good. You're out in the heat for that long.
Of course.
And so, that's kind of how I tackle it. I know other coaches have different methods, and it's kind of funny. There's, you might be on a par 3 with 2 other coaches for, 4 groups, because that's where their girls wanted them to be too. So, it definitely is, kind of based on what they are asking for and what honestly the course is too, is a factor. So yeah.
That's fair. Okay. Well, I appreciate that, because I've always been curious where the heck you choose to stand. Politics. No, I'm just kidding. So my favorite question of the show, it's the name of the show. It's my favorite question is, why do you coach? What's your coach's why?
Yeah. I've touched on it a little bit, but my coach's why is impacting people. I mean, I knew from a young age that, my mom cliche always told me, you're going to impact the world, you can impact the world, and you will if you want to, So impacting people was something that I really wanted to do in my life. And like, me being a people person or, more extroverted, it was something that came natural to me, building relationships anyways. So yeah, impacting people. And then, like I said, I had so many great coaches, and I still do. They're still in my life, and I am not the person without them and my parents and family, so that was a huge part too. I mean, I have coaches that I had when I was, 7 and 8 that I still really look up to and still am in touch with. And so I think that's another reason, just the coaches that have impacted me. Why would I not want to impact someone else in the same way or try to? So, yeah. But yeah, and I truly love my job. Like coming in, I was nervous and I thought, well, I'll, try it out and see how it goes. And now that I'm in it, I'm like, I can't imagine doing it.
Quit.
Yeah. So it's been great.
You love it.
Absolutely. Well, I love it. I love your why. Thanks for sharing it with us. If you guys are still listening to this podcast on YouTube, make sure you guys HTB, hit that bell, all the 9 yards. If you guys are an audio listener, Spotify, PocketCasts, Apple Podcasts, whatever it is, make sure you guys leave a review, hit those stars, say what you got to say, but whatever you say it with your chest, because Coach and I want to hear it. Coach, I have my final question for you. It's a debate question, so I want to hear it. Okay. What state produces the best high school golf?
Oof, that's a hard one. That is a debating question. I mean, as a first-year coach, naively, I want to say, somewhere down south, because, I mean, I love Michigan, and I came out of Michigan, so I think it produces good golf no matter what, but I think there's just more opportunity. So I would say probably Texas. They have a really good high school program. Their high school season is very mirrored to what college looks like. It's fall and spring, and so yeah, I would probably say Texas, but that's also up for debate. I'm not trying to step on anyone's toes.
No, I want you to step on some toes. That's what this is for. I want you to make some people double guess you.
But, yeah, I think Texas has a really strong recruiting pool that girls, it just is easier to play year round down there. So they've got a lot of talent and yeah, a lot of good people. So
I hear that. I don't think you're not the only coach who said that. And seems like the sports world, in most sports, there are some sports that have been kind of crazy with some of the picks that they've done, but a lot of like outdoor sports, specifically like baseball and stuff, right? Like and golf, soccer, the places that have better weather year round, right, produces a lot better because they can play it year round. They have the ability to play it. So I want you to step on toes, but I appreciate that. Texas seems to be a pretty valid answer in a lot of places. So fair, good to know. Well, Coach, I appreciate you jumping on here today. It was a great episode. I'm very thankful that you decided to jump on and talk a little bit about the game and how you go about it, especially as a new coach to the world and at a high level as well. So thanks for jumping on here. I really appreciate you, Coach.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I hope to have you back. Hopefully we can get you back on here again, maybe after year 2, maybe depending on how things go, right? Maybe you've learned a little bit since then. And so I'd love to chit chat with you a little bit again. So if you're up for that, I'd love to have you back on.
Oh yeah, for sure. Would love to.
Absolutely. Cool. Well, with that being said, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, but we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.